You missed a spot right here. I need this floor spotless, not just wet. Go over this again now.
Some of us has a real job to do, unlike you, stinky old janitor.
He mocked the janitor in front of everyone, laughed at his clothes, dismissed his worth. But when life came full circle, he found himself standing in that same janitor's hospital room, begging him to live. Because sometimes the person you look down on is the one holding your destiny in their hands. If you love powerful stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell so you never miss another story that'll touch your heart and open your eyes. The morning sun poured through the glass walls of Silvercrest Medical Center, a hospital that prided itself on luxury, precision, and reputation. Everything gleamed, from the polished marble floors to the stainless steel equipment. But beneath that shine, something darker simmered, and that darkness was about to meet its reckoning. Inside the main lobby, Dr. Marcus Hill strutted in like a man who owned the place. At 41, he was the youngest chief surgeon in Silvercrest's history. Brilliant, ambitious, and arrogant enough to believe no one could touch him. To his colleagues, he was a genius. To his staff, he was a nightmare. The kind of man who measured people by titles, not character. That morning, as he sipped his coffee and scanned his tablet, his sharp eyes caught sight of an older man mopping the floor near the reception desk. A janitor in faded blue coveralls, humming softly under his breath. Dr. Hill sneered. He didn't like seeing janitors in his space, especially during visiting hours. "Hey," he snapped, striding over. The man looked up, startled but calm. "Morning, sir. You missed a spot," Dr. Hill said coldly, pointing to an invisible stain. "Next time, make sure this floor is spotless. Some of us have real work to do." The janitor's gentle eyes met his for a moment. "I'm doing my best, doctor," he said softly. Dr. Hill's voice hardened. "Well, your best isn't good enough for my hospital." The man lowered his gaze and continued mopping in silence. The room had gone uncomfortably quiet. A few nurses exchanged awkward glances, but no one dared speak. Dr. Hill walked away, proud of himself, convinced he just set standards. What he didn't know was that the man he'd just humiliated had more power in that hospital than any surgeon in the building. Later that afternoon, Dr. Hill was in surgery room 3, performing a complex cardiac procedure. His reputation depended on cases like this: high profile, high risk, and high pain. Everything was running smoothly until the door swung open. A young nurse whispered, "Dr. Hill, there's an inspection team arriving early. They said they're here to observe." Dr. Hill groaned. "Now, can't they wait until after I save this man's life?" But they couldn't. Minutes later, the observation window filled with people in suits, the hospital board, investors, someone else, the janitor. Only this time, he wasn't in blue coveralls. He stood tall, dressed in a dark tailored suit, surrounded by executives who hung on his every word. Dr. Hill's scalpel froze midair. A bead of sweat slid down his temple as his mind scrambled to make sense of what he was seeing. The janitor, the same man he had mocked that morning, was now standing beside Elaine Porter, the hospital administrator. When the operation ended successfully, Dr. Hill stripped off his gloves and stormed into the hallway, demanding answers. Who the hell let him into mine? Or, he barked at Elaine. Elaine's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Dr. Hill, you might watch your tone," she said quietly. "That man you just spoke to?" He frowned. "What about him?" Elaine leaned closer. "That's Mr. Robert King, the majority owner of Silvercrest Medical." Dr. Hill froze. His world tilted. The janitor on the hospital? He turned toward the observation room, just as Mr. Kane's calm, piercing gaze locked on him. The same gentle eyes that had looked up from a mop that morning. Only now, they weren't humble. They were assessing, judging, and in that moment, Dr. Hill realized the floor he had walked over, the man he had walked over, might be the one to decide his future. But what would Mr. Kane do next? Would he expose Dr. Hill for his arrogance, or test him further before passing judgment? One thing was certain: the tables had turned, and this was only the beginning. The next morning, Silvercrest Medical Center felt different. The air carried a strange energy, a quiet whisper of unease that slipped through the sterile halls and past the polished doors. Everyone knew something had shifted. The janitor wasn't just a janitor. He was the owner. Word spread like wildfire. By the time the sun rose over the parking lot, every nurse, every orderly, every technician had heard the same unbelievable story. The man who mopped the floors was Robert King, the billionaire investor who had bought Silvercrest 10 years ago, but hadn't been seen since. And the man who insulted him publicly was Dr. Marcus Hill. Dr. Hill sat alone in his office that morning, staring at his reflection in the black surface of his tablet screen. He hadn't slept, not a second. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those calm, piercing eyes, the same ones that had looked up from a mop and later stared down from behind the observation lights. He tried to convince himself it wasn't that serious. So what? He'd made a mistake. Doctors were under pressure all the time. He was short with people, everyone knew that. But deep down, he knew it was different this time. He hadn't just embarrassed a man, he'd disrespected the wrong one. Still, his pride wouldn't let him show fear. He buttoned his white coat, adjusted his tie, and stepped out into the corridor as if nothing had happened. Heads turned as he walked by. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. He could feel the whispers following him like shadows. Is that him? The one who yelled at Mr. Kane? I heard he called him a janitor in his hospital. Dr. Hill clenched his jaw and pushed forward, pretending not to hear. At precisely 9 o'clock, the intercom buzzed overhead. Dr. Marcus Hill, please report to conference room 4. Immediately, the voice of the hospital administrator, Elaine Porter, was cold and sharp. No emotion, no words. Marcus's stomach twisted. He knew that tone, the tone that meant something bad was waiting. When he arrived, the door was already open. Inside sat Elaine, a few board members, and at the head of the long table, Robert King, not in coveralls this time. He wore a charcoal gray suit, his silver hair perfectly combed, and his calm expression giving nothing away. Dr. Hill, Elaine said, gesturing to a chair. Please sit. Marcus obeyed, trying to keep his breathing steady. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Finally, Robert King spoke. I hear you run a tight ship in your department, Dr. Hill. Marcus straightened slightly. Yes, sir. I believe in maintaining the highest standards of professionalism. Mr. Kane nodded slowly. Professionalism, he repeated. Interesting choice of word. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. If this is about yesterday, Mr. Kane, Yesterday, Kane interrupted softly, was an education, doctor. For both of us. Marcus frowned. I don't follow. Kane's eyes locked on his. I came here unannounced. No entourage, no warning. Just a man with a mop. To see how people behave when they think no one's watching. He leaned forward slightly, and what I saw was not professionalism. It was arrogance. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. I've built hospitals all over this country. Kane continued, his voice firm but calm. State-of-the-art facilities, filled with brilliant minds like yours. But brilliance without compassion is rot waiting to spread. He let the words hang in the air. Marcus swallowed hard, unable to respond. Kane's tone softened slightly. You're an excellent surgeon, Dr. Hill. Your results are among the best in this hospital. But leadership isn't measured by scalpel precision. It's measured by how you treat those who can't offer you anything in return. For the first time in his life, Marcus had no words. After the meeting, Marcus expected to be suspended, fired even, but to his surprise, calm. Kane didn't dismiss him. Instead, he said something strange. You'll continue working here, Dr. Hill, but under observation. You'll be reassigned to a special rotation, one that I personally designed. Marcus blinked. Observation. Yes, Kane replied, standing. Consider it an opportunity to learn what kind of man you want to be. The special rotation wasn't in the operating rooms. It wasn't in the bright, prestigious surgical wing that Marcus ruled like a king. No, it was in the basement, the hospital's community care unit, the place where patients without insurance were treated, where nurses doubled as counselors and volunteers made do with outdated equipment and short supplies. Marcus had barely been down there once in 5 years. Now it was his new home. Day one was brutal. He was assigned to shadow nurse named Lydia Gomez, a woman in her 50s with eyes that seemed to have seen every kind of suffering. She didn't smile much, but she didn't scold either. She simply worked efficiently, compassionately, tirelessly. Marcus followed her through the narrow corridors, where the walls were faded and the air smelled faintly of bleach and exhaustion. Their first patient was a teenage boy with a fractured arm. No insurance, no guardian present. The boy flinched when Marcus tried to touch his arm. "Hey," Lydia said gently, placing a comforting hand on the boy's shoulder. "It's okay. He's here to help." Marcus noticed the way she spoke. Calm, steady kind. It disarmed the boy instantly. "Doctors up there forget what pain looks like up close," Lydia said quietly to Marcus as they left the room. "Down here, you see it every day, and you learn pain doesn't care how many degrees you have." Marcus stayed silent. By the end of the week, Marcus had treated homeless men, single mothers, addicts, and veterans, people he had once called non-priority cases. Every patient thanked him. Every nurse smiled at him, not because of who he was, but because he was trying. For the first time, Dr. Marcus Hill felt something he hadn't in years: humility. But Robert King wasn't done testing him. Late one evening, as Marcus prepared to leave, his phone buzzed. It was an internal message: report to conference room 2 immediately. When he arrived, the room was empty except for Mr. Kane, standing by the window, watching the city lights. "Sit down, doctor," he said. Marcus obeyed. "I've been watching you," Kane began. "You've changed slightly. You're starting to see people as people again. But tell me, are you ready to prove it?" Marcus frowned. "Prove it how?" Kane turned to face him. "There's a patient arriving tomorrow, a Jane Doe. No insurance, no family, multiple organ complications. The other doctors already refused the case." Marcus's brow furrowed. "Why refuse?" "Because she's complicated," Kane said softly. "And because there's no profit in saving her." Marcus's throat tightened. "You want me to take the case?" "I want you to choose to take it," Kane said. "No orders, no press, no glory, just a life and a chance to do the right thing when no one's watching." That night, Marcus lay awake, staring at the ceiling. For years, he'd built his career on prestige, on money, on headlines, on applause. But now he was being asked to do the one thing his pride had never allowed: serve without recognition. The next morning, he walked into the emergency wing and found her. The patient was a frail woman in her late 30s, pale skin, hollow eyes. She looked like she'd been fighting the world alone for a long time. The nurses whispered, "She's not going to make it." But Marcus didn't move. He stared at her chart, his hands trembling slightly. Kidney failure, internal bleeding, sepsis, hopeless. And yet, something inside him shifted. "Prepanor," he said quietly. The nurses froze. "Doctor, you're not seriously." "Now," Marcus barked, his voice cracking through the room. He wasn't doing it for applause this time. He was doing it because someone had to. For 12 straight hours, Dr. Marcus Hill fought for a life that everyone else had given up on. Every second bled into the next. Every decision carried weight. Lydia stayed by his side the whole time, silently handing him instruments, wiping sweat from his brow. And when the heart monitor finally steadied, a faint but undeniable beat, the room erupted in quiet disbelief. He'd done it. He'd saved her. But before he could even exhale in relief, the doors burst open. "Dr. Hill," a nurse called, breathless. "You need to come now." He turned. "What's wrong?" "It's Mr. Kane," she said. He just collapsed in the lobby. The world blurred as Marcus raced through the hallways, past the patients, past the nurses, until he reached the grand marble floor of the lobby. There, lying motionless beneath the hospital's silver emblem, was Robert King. His face was pale, his breathing shallow. "Get a gurney," Marcus shouted. "Now!" He knelt beside him, pressing 2 fingers to Kane's neck, faint pulse, fading fast. As nurses rushed in, Marcus's mind spiraled. The man who had humbled him, tested him, changed him, was now the one who needed saving. "Stay with me," Marcus whispered as they wheeled him toward the oar. "Please, not you." As the elevator doors closed, Marcus glanced down at the unconscious man's hand. the same hand that had held a mob, that had built an empire, that had given him a second chance, now was lifeless. And for the first time in his life, Marcus felt something he had never felt for anyone outside of the operating room: fear of loss. He looked up at the surgical lights as they rolled into the door. This wasn't just another procedure. It was redemption. It was full circle. But as he scrubbed in, one of the nurses whispered nervously, "Doctor, you need to see this." Marcus turned toward the monitors and froze. The test results, glowing on the screen, revealed something that made his stomach drop. It wasn't just a collapse. It wasn't just exhaustion. Robert Kane's condition was terminal, and it was something Marcus himself had unknowingly caused months ago. The truth hit like a blade of ice. How could he be responsible? And if Kane didn't survive this operation, would the hospital and Marcus's redemption die with him? The lights dimmed. The monitors beeped. The line between mercy and guilt blurred. And as Marcus lifted the scalpel, one question echoed through his mind. What happens when the man you wrong becomes the one you can't live without? The surgical lights glared down like judgment. The sterile air of the operating room hummed with the faint rhythm of machines. The beeping monitor, the hiss of oxygen, the whispers of fear that no one dared to speak aloud. Dr. Marcus Hill stood frozen, his gloved hands trembling slightly as his eyes darted between the glowing monitor and the unconscious man lying on the table. Robert Kane, the man he'd once mocked, the man who had tested him, the man who had changed him, and now, the man whose life hung by a thread Marcus himself might have severed long before this moment. The nurse standing beside him shifted uneasily. "Doctor," she whispered, "what's wrong?" Marcus's eyes flicked toward her, but his mind was miles away. The data on the screen didn't lie. Kane's liver was shutting down, his kidneys failing, and his blood showed traces of an anticoagulant that shouldn't have been there. Warfarin, but it wasn't accidental. He recognized the dosage pattern immediately. It was the same prescription protocol he'd issued 3 months earlier for one of his cardiac patients. Except that patient had been Robert Kane. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. No, that can't be right. He glanced again at the chart, scrolling through the archived medical records with a trembling hand. And there it was, his digital. Signature, his name, his dosage, his mistake. 3 months ago, Kane had been admitted anonymously under an alias for a minor heart issue. The hospital used dummy names for high-profile figures to protect their privacy. Marcus had treated that case, rushed, distracted, overworked. He'd prescribed a standard dosage without double-checking a flag note about the patient's blood disorder. It was a small oversight, one he never even noticed. But now, looking at the results flashing across the monitor, he knew that small mistake had snowballed into organ failure, and the man lying before him was paying the price. He felt the room spin, his lungs tighten. "Doctor," the nurse repeated, her voice sharp this time. "Do we proceed?" Marcus blinked, forcing himself back into the moment. He couldn't fall apart now. Not in front of them, not with Kane's life slipping away. He swallowed hard. "Yes," he said finally. "Prep the bypass. We're going in." The nurses moved quickly, trained hands snapping into motion. But Marcus could feel the weight pressing on his chest like a mountain. Every cut of the scalpel, every suction of blood felt heavier than the last. He wasn't just fighting for Kane's life. He was fighting for his own soul. For hours, he worked, sweat dripping beneath his surgical cap, his hands steady but his heart in chaos. Every decision he made felt like atonement. He whispered silent apologies between each heartbeat, as though Kane could somehow hear him through the anesthesia. At last, as dawn broke through the frosted windows, the heart monitor gave a slow, steady beep, beep, beep. Stable. Kane had made it through the surgery. But Marcus didn't feel relief. Not yet, because surviving the night was one thing. Waking up and remembering was another. 2 days passed. The hospital buzzed with rumors, each one spreading faster than the last. Staff whispered that the mysterious collapse of Robert Kane had shaken the entire ward. Reporters waited outside, trying to confirm if the reclusive billionaire was alive. Marcus avoided the spotlight, spending every waking hour in the ICU, sitting by Kane's bedside, not as his surgeon, but as his silent penitent. He hadn't told anyone about the prescription error. Not yet. Every time he tried, his voice failed him, because he knew once the truth came out, his career was over. His license, his reputation, everything. And yet, the guilt was eating him alive. On the third morning, as the first light filtered through the blinds, Kane stirred. Marcus straightened in his chair, his pulse hammered. Kane's eyelids fluttered, his breathing deepened, and then his eyes opened, calm, steady, sharp as ever. For a long moment, neither man spoke. Then, slowly, Kane's lips parted. "Dr. Hill." Marcus exhaled in relief. "You're awake." Kane's eyes moved across the room, taking in the wires, the machines, the sterile quiet. "How bad was it?" he asked, his voice gravelly. Marcus hesitated. "Bad, but you pulled through. You're stable now." Kane gave a faint nod. "Stable," he murmured. "That's good. For now." Then his gaze lifted, piercing, deliberate. "You look like a man carrying a ghost. Doctor, what is it?" Marcus froze. The words hit harder than they should have. How could Kane always see through people like that? Even after coming back from the edge of death, he opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Finally, he whispered, "I made a mistake, Mr. Kane. A big one." Kane didn't flinch. "We all do." "No, you don't understand," Marcus said, his voice cracking. "Your collapse, the organ failure, wasn't natural. I caused it. I prescribed the wrong dosage. I didn't double-check your blood work. His voice broke completely. "You almost died because of me." The room fell silent. The monitors hummed softly between them. Kane's expression didn't change. He didn't shout. He didn't accuse. He just studied Marcus with an unreadable calm. Then, quietly, he said, "I know." Marcus's head snapped up. "What?" Kane's faint smile didn't reach his eyes. "I knew, Doctor. I've known since before the surgery." The words hit like a punch to the chest. "You knew." Marcus stammered. "Then why? Why didn't you?" "Because I wanted to see who you'd become when faced with the truth," Kane said simply. "Would you cover it up? Shift the blame? Or own it?" Marcus's mind reeled. "You let me operate on you knowing you'd have to face yourself," Kane interrupted. "You see, Dr. Hill, I didn't test you to punish you. I tested you to understand you." He paused, his gaze softening. "When I bought this hospital, I believed in its mission to heal not just the body, but the heart. Somewhere along the way, men like you forgot that. I wanted to remind you." Marcus's voice trembled. "You could have fired me, exposed me. I still could," Kane said quietly. "But redemption isn't given through humiliation. It's earned through truth." For the first time, Marcus saw not just power in Kane's eyes, but mercy. And that mercy broke him more than anger ever could. "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered. "I know," Kane said gently. "But the question is, what will you do with that sorrow?" Marcus lowered his gaze, his mind spinning. He didn't know. Not yet. But the conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Elaine Porter, the hospital administrator, stepped inside, her expression grim. "Mr. Kane," she said, her tone tight. "We need to speak privately." Kane gestured toward Marcus. "He stays." Elaine hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but this is serious." She placed a file on the tray beside the bed. "These came in this morning. It's the audit report, the one you ordered before your incident." Kane's brow furrowed. "Go on." Elaine hesitated before opening the folder. "It appears someone's been funneling money out of the hospital's charity wing. Menial, medical supplies, grants, all redirected to fake vendors." Marcus frowned. "Who would do that?" Elaine's eyes flicked toward him, then back to Kane. "That's the problem. The transactions were approved under your department, Dr. Hill." Marcus's stomach dropped. "What?" She nodded. "The signatures, the authorizations, all traced to your ID. Digital and physical. That's impossible," Marcus said, his voice rising. "I've never." "Calm down, Doctor," Kane said quietly. "If what she says is true, then someone's setting you up." Elaine crossed her arms. "Maybe, but the evidence is stacked high, and the board's already calling for your suspension." Marcus's head spun. They can't. Elaine cut in cold. "A effective immediately. In that single moment, the world flipped again. The same hospital that had once bowed to him now turned its back. The same halls that once carried whispers of his brilliance now echoed with doubt. He looked at Kane, desperate. "You believe me, don't you?" Kane didn't answer right away. His gaze was distant, thoughtful. "I want to, but trust, Dr. Hill is a fragile thing. Easily broken, painfully rebuilt." Marcus's chest ached. "Then let me prove it." Kane studied him for a long moment, then finally nodded. "Very well. Find the truth. Prove you didn't do this." He turned to Elaine. "Delay the suspension for 72 hours. Give him that much." Elaine hesitated. 72 hours. After that, if there's no evidence, the board will vote him out. Kane's tone hardened. "And if he does find evidence, whoever's behind this will face consequences you can't imagine." As Elaine left, Marcus sat in stunned silence. The clock was ticking. 72 hours to clear his name or lose everything. He turned to Kane, his voice shaking. "Why help me? After everything?" Kane's eyes softened. "Because sometimes the only way to truly rebuild a man is to let him fight for what's worth saving." Marcus nodded slowly, determination settling in his chest like a flame. "Then I'll find who did this." That night, long after the hospital lights dimmed, Marcus sat in his office, surrounded by files, receipts, and security logs. Hours blurred together. His eyes burned, his hands shook, but he kept digging. And then he found it. A single discrepancy. One electronic signature, identical to his own, logged at 3:27 a.m. on a day he hadn't even been in the building. He followed the data trail, his heart pounding, until it led him to an access code. A name, Idemporteur. Marcus froze. The same administrator who'd called for his suspension, the same woman standing beside Kane at every board meeting, had used his ID to cover her tracks. He backed away from the screen, his pulse racing. "She's behind it," he whispered. "She's been stealing from the hospital and using me as the scapegoat." He grabbed his coat, ready to take the evidence straight to Kane. But as he reached for the door, he heard it. A voice, low, cold, right behind him. "Going somewhere, Doctor?" Marcus turned and froze. Elaine Porter stood in the doorway, her expression calm, a faint smile playing on her lips. Her eyes glinted under the dim office light. "I was hoping you wouldn't find that," she said softly. "Now you've made this complicated." Marcus's heartbeat thundered in his ears. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. Elaine stepped closer, her tone almost sweet. "You really think you can just march to Kane and expose me? You don't get it, Marcus. He's already dying. That surgery of yours only bought him weeks. When he's gone, I'll be in charge." Marcus's blood ran cold. "You poisoned him," he whispered. Elaine smiled faintly. "Let's just say, I encouraged his decline." She leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "And if you don't want to join him, you'll keep your mouth shut." Marcus stared at her. The woman who'd just confessed to killing the man who'd saved them all. The man who'd given Marcus a second chance. He knew what he had to do. But before he could move, Elaine's voice cut through the silence again. "You have one night, Doctor," she said softly, stepping back into the shadows. "Decide where your loyalty lies, with the truth or with survival." And then she was gone. Marcus stood alone in the dark office, the city lights flickering through the blinds, his mind spinning with rage, guilt, and fear. Somewhere upstairs, Robert Kane slept peacefully, unaware that death was circling him. Dr. Marcus Hill had 72 hours to prove his innocence. But now he had far less time to save the only man who had ever believed in him. Night fell heavy over Silver Crest Medical Center. Outside, rain lashed against the windows, streaking the glass with silver lines that looked like tears from heaven itself. Inside, the hospital was quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that hides secrets in its breath. Dr. Marcus Hill sat alone in his office, the glow of his monitor flickering across his face. The evidence was right there on the screen: files, forged signatures, offshore transfers. Proof that Elaine Porter, the hospital administrator, had been siphoning millions meant for charity patients. And worse, she had poisoned Robert Kane to cover her tracks. The same Robert Kane who had tested Marcus not to destroy him, but to save him. Marcus's fists clenched around the flash drive. He had what he needed, but every instinct screamed that walking into that boardroom tomorrow might cost him everything. His job, his safety, his life. Because Elaine Porter wasn't just powerful. She was desperate, and desperate people were dangerous. Marcus rose from his desk and slipped the flash drive into his pocket. He knew he couldn't wait until morning. Every hour that passed was another chance for Elaine to silence the truth. He needed to warn Kane tonight. The ICU was dimly lit, the soft hum of machines filling the air like a lullaby. Robert Kane lay still, his skin pale but peaceful. Beside him sat a small framed photo, a younger Kane, smiling beside a woman and child. His family, gone long ago. Marcus stood by the bed, guilt written across his face. "Mr. Kane," he whispered, "you once told me redemption's earned through truth. Well, it's time to earn mine." He reached for Kane's hand and froze. It was cold, too cold, code blue. "I see you now," Marcus shouted, pressing the emergency button as the alarms erupted around him. Nurses flooded in, followed by a crash car. BP dropping, no pulse. Marcus began chest compressions himself, refusing to let go. "Come on, Kane. Don't do this now. Not like this." The room became chaos. The sound of paddles charging, nurses calling vitals, the desperate rhythm of hope fighting death. Clear. The defibrillator fired. Kane's body jolted. Nothing. Again. Clear. Still nothing. Marcus's heart pounded in his ears. Sweat dripped down his temple. He leaned in, his voice breaking. "Please don't leave me. Don't leave this world without justice." One more shock, and then beep. A faint, fragile heartbeat blinked across the monitor. The team exhaled in relief. Marcus stumbled back, chest heaving. Kane was alive, barely, but his condition was worsening fast. The toxins were still in his blood. It wasn't a heart failure. It was poisoning, slow, deliberate, precise. Elaine Porter's work. Marcus knew what he had to do. There was no time for hesitation, no time for fear. He slipped out of the ICU and down the corridor toward the administrative wing, where Elaine's office lights still glowed, faint and golden behind frosted glass. As he approached, voices echoed from inside. "By tomorrow, the board will have everything they need," Elaine was saying. "Marcus Hill takes the fall. I become acting director, and the press never learns a thing." Another voice replied, low, uncertain. It was one of the board members. "Are you sure this is wise, Elaine? Mr. Kane's condition." Elaine cut him off. "He won't live through the night. And when he's gone, his influence dies with him. Do you understand? This hospital will be mine." Marcus's hand tightened on the doorknob. His pulse roared in his ears. Enough was enough. He burst into the room. Elaine spun around, startled, but recovered quickly. "Well," she said coolly, "you're up late, doctor." Marcus's voice shook, not from fear, but fury. "You poisoned him." Elaine's smile didn't waver. "You'll have to be more specific." "I have proof," Marcus said, holding up the flash drive. "The money trail, the forgeries, everything." For a moment, the mask slipped from her face, replaced by something sharp and venomous. Then she laughed. "Do you really think anyone will believe you? You're already under investigation. Your name's on the documents. You'll go down long before I do." Marcus took a step forward. "Not this time." Elaine tilted her head, eyes cold. "You're a fool, Marcus. You think saving one man wipes away your sins. You think Kane sees you as anything more than another tool in his collection." Her words hit deep, but Marcus didn't flinch. "Maybe I was his test," he said quietly. "But I passed." He pulled out his phone and hit send. A notification flashed. "File upload complete." Elaine's eyes widened. "What did you just do?" "Sent everything to the press," Marcus said. "Every file, every signature, every lie." Elaine's composure cracked for the first time. "You idiot. You just destroyed this hospital." "No," Marcus said softly. "I just saved it." Before either could move, security stormed in, summoned by the message Kane had pre-scheduled to send if Marcus triggered the data upload. Elaine's fate was sealed. As she was escorted out, she hissed, "This isn't over, Marcus. People like me never go quietly." Marcus met her gaze, his voice calm. "Then maybe it's time someone made sure you do." By morning, the news had broken. Corruption scandal at Silvercrest Medical Center. Administrator arrested in fraud and attempted murder plot. The hospital was in chaos, but for the first time, it was honest chaos. The kind that comes before change. Marcus spent the next days at Kane's bedside, refusing to leave even for a moment. He knew Kane's body was weak, but his spirit was still there, still watching, still testing. 1 week later, Kane opened his eyes again. His voice was faint but firm. "I heard you won a war for me." Marcus managed to smile. "You could say that." Kane chuckled weakly. "And won, I hope." "She's gone," Marcus said. "The truth's out. The board knows everything." Kane nodded slowly, his eyes soft. "Good. You did what I couldn't." Marcus shook his head. "You're the reason I even tried." For a moment, silence filled the room. The kind of silence that speaks louder than words. Then Kane reached out, resting a trembling hand over Marcus's. "You've become a man I hoped you could be," he whispered. "Now it's your turn to lead." Marcus frowned. "What are you talking about?" Kane smiled faintly. "The board has already agreed. When I'm gone, Silvercrest needs someone who remembers what compassion feels like." Marcus's chest tightened. "You're not dying." Kane's eyes glistened. "Marcus, everyone's dying, but not everyone lives long enough to make things right." Days later, Robert Kane passed peacefully in his sleep. No alarms, no pain, just silence and peace. The hospital mourned him, not as a billionaire, but as a man who saw beyond titles and into hearts. His funeral drew hundreds. Doctors, nurses, janitors, patients, people from every floor, every wing, every life he'd quietly touched. Marcus stood before them, delivering the eulogy with tears glistening in his eyes. Robert Kane wasn't just the man who owned this hospital, he said. He was the man who reminded us what it means to serve. He taught me that healing isn't about power, it's about purpose. Months passed. Silvercrest rebuilt, from its policies to its people. New programs rose where corruption once thrived. Charity wings reopened. Patients once ignored now found care. And Dr. Marcus Hill, once the arrogant surgeon who measured worth by rank, became something greater. The new chief medical director of Silvercrest, chosen not for brilliance, but for change. Every morning, as he walked through the hospital's glass doors, he passed a new mural in the lobby. Robert Kane in his janitor's uniform, smiling, mop in hand. Beneath it, the words read, "True leadership begins at the floor." Marcus stopped there every day, not out of guilt anymore, but gratitude. Because he finally understood. Redemption doesn't come when you're forgiven. It comes when you choose to live differently. As the sun rose over Silvercrest, painting gold across the windows, Marcus stood in his office, Kane's old office now, overlooking the city. He thought of that first day, the arrogance, the fault, the lessons learned in pain. He thought of the man who'd worn a janitor's uniform just to see a surgeon's soul. And he smiled, because some stories don't end with power. They end with purpose. And that, Marcus realized, was the truest kind of healing there is. He laughed at the janitor once, but in the end, it was the janitor who taught him how to be human. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, then don't just scroll away. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell. Because every story we tell here is a voice for the voiceless, a light in the dark, and a reminder that truth always finds its way.